Hello and welcome to the Family Business Show with John Broons. I'm the Family Business Guy, and my guest today is Claire Farrow from NPower in Canning Vale in Perth. I just want to acknowledge quickly Tech, the Executive Connection. They're sponsoring our show today, and I really appreciate Tech's involvement. They are a wonderful world-class peer mentoring organisation, and they do great work. So thank you very much, Tech. Claire, welcome.
Hi John, how you going?
I'm going well, thanks. And you?
Good, thank you.
Excellent. So, NPower.
Yep.
I've had a chat with you a little bit before we've come on the show today, and I understand NPower, from a historical point of view, was a business owned by your dad.
That's correct, it was.
So, what happened that it is now yours? Can you tell us a little bit about a story?
I might go back quite far, a little bit. Tell a story. So back, not sure how old my dad was, but he was working as an electrician for another company, and he basically, the company he was working for, everyone went on strike, and the company could no longer fulfill their requirements and do the work. So he'd been talking about it for a while, wanting to go out on his own. He talked to my mum, he went out, started up his own company and took on all their work. So he was quite lucky with the opportunity that the work was there ready for him. He didn't necessarily have to go and search from start from scratch. And from there he grew. That was in 1983. From then along, my mum worked with him in the business. They were both owners, and they actually had 5 different companies. And that went right the way through until probably when I was 14, I started doing a bit of work there in holidays of school, just in the office, admin work, get to know people, a little bit about the business. Then come 16, school wasn't for me, so I left. And I actually went to TAFE to do event management. Soon found out it wasn't for me. So straight away from then on, I decided to come into Dad's business and work for him. So I worked there right up from 16 till I was about 20. Unfortunately, at that point, he had to close all of his businesses down. There was a bit of an issue. So some administrators come in, and one of them they actually put up for sale. That's where I come along. So I started mine, NPower, that's where we started, and I bought the business from them.
So the 5 or 6 businesses, what were they, those other businesses?
Yep, so they did, there was electrical work, electrical engineering, boiler work, solar power, and then there was also a motorbike suspension company. Okay,
so quite different businesses, and you knew about all of them.
Yep.
So you understood the operations of those businesses. Yep. And come towards this issue with administrators, then you made a choice to buy a business. So you created your own business, NPower.
Yep.
And that then bought the existing business that was up for sale.
Yep.
From the administrators.
Yep.
What made you think that you might be able to buy it and that you could actually run it?
To be honest, there wasn't time to sort of sit back and think about it. It was more here's an opportunity, either go for it or don't. We can either keep the family business still going and I can run it, or we lose it and we go different directions. So it all happened pretty quickly. And I've got the help of my dad, like being 20 years old, that's a pretty big thing for me. Yeah, we just had to take it and go. So we're quite lucky that we're still running it.
So your father is an employee of yours, is that correct?
Yep.
So working with your dad, do you find that challenging?
100%. I think any family business will always find it challenging to work with other family. It is quite hard. You butt heads about a lot of things, but the biggest thing is to remember you're a team and you want to end up in the same place, you're all going in the same direction, so work as a team, find a way to compromise.
So we'll come back to challenges later on.
Yep.
So you bought the business when you were 20. How many years ago is that now?
5.5.
5.5 years ago.
Yep.
5.5 years of running a business with your dad. How many other people do you employ?
There's 11 or 12 of us at the moment.
Okay. And do you mainly do the administration,
Yep.
finding the jobs? Who does the sales?
There's two different sides. We've got the residential side, which I look after that. But the more industrial side, we've got my dad and one of our managers, Steve.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's a sales team dedicated to going out finding business?
Their sole role is not sales, but there's part of their role.
Part of their role?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's a substantial team, and 5.5 years is quite a good time to have been able to keep the business going. Not too many businesses
No.
are able to get past the first or second year. So how critical was it having a team around you that made the business work, put it that way?
It's very critical. You've got to have people that you've all got the same outcome in mind, and you're all heading in the same direction. You're all working towards that, and it's got to be people can't. It's critical to have people that are not solely about themselves. They're there to work as a team. We all want the business to go in the same place.
How have you been able to communicate that?
I wouldn't say communicate. I would think it's come down to more being quite persistent or sort of selective on who we choose to be in the business to go forward. That's more. I don't think everyone's suited for that.
So you're very clear on the kind of staff that you hire, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want them to fit the culture of the family business?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. So from the history point of view, there was a business before, the business now continues.
Yep.
Your dad's involved. Who else in the family is involved? Is your mother still involved?
No, so she left, I'm not sure what year, but she decided to leave and go her own way back when Dad was still running his. And just of 2017, so a year and a bit ago, my husband's joined.
Your husband's in the business?
Yep.
So is he an employee of the business?
Yep.
So you're your husband's boss?
Yep.
That's an interesting dynamic. Not too many family businesses. I don't think I would find too many where the wife controls the husband and tells him what to do. Is that the way it appears to the other people that are employed in the business?
It does, and for them, I think there's two sides to it. There is that, but the other side is they, I think, would struggle when they've been there from the start, seeing him come along and suddenly be at the top, like he needs to work his way there.
So he's actually an employee on the tools, working his way up?
Yep.
Okay. So is he an electrician?
No, he's a plumber, so we do plumbing now.
So there's business diversification?
Yep.
Fantastic. How did you choose, well, obviously you've made a choice by marrying your husband. Was it something that plumbing was a natural progression for the business?
He was always a plumber, but it was more, we wanted someone in the business that, as much as it's hard having family, you always want people that you know you can trust no matter what. That's a big thing, and we wanted him to come in. He started off first doing boiler servicing, and he'd never done any of that before. Boiler work and plumbing go hand in hand. It's good to have them both, and electricians as well. They all work together. So he came in doing boiler work, and then from there it was sort of, how can we expand? You know, what can we do? Next step, and we did it.
And you just did it.
Yep.
It sounds like it's so easy to do. So from the historical point of view, you've got the business. Are there any other family members involved in the business?
No.
You've got your dad in the business and your husband?
Yep.
Okay. And that is quite a family dynamic.
Yep.
So some of the challenges you might have faced, both leading into buying of the business
Yep.
from the administrator, and some of the challenges you might have faced since, what do you think they could have been? What have you experienced?
I would say the first sort of, when I first bought the business from the administrators, the biggest challenge was, I think your clients they struggle with change sometimes. So regardless it was still us doing the work, it was a change for them and they would see what's going on. So getting them to be confident they stick with us, because there has been a new company, I guess having confidence in us that we're going to be around and staying with us, not just going, oh, we can't deal with this and going elsewhere. That was quite a big challenge, just making sure everyone was comfortable and believed in us, sort of thing.
Did that take long to settle down? Was that a 3-month, 6-month, 12-month journey?
I would say 3 months. It was quite quickly. We
They
were
s-
quite lucky. We had good relationships with them, which was good.
Okay.
Yep.
So in this case, the challenge was making sure that the customers stayed with you,
Yep.
those existing customers. Do you think you lost any customers along the way?
We did within the first probably year and a half, but that unfortunately wasn't due to that changeover. That was more the wrong staff in the position not doing as they should, unfortunately, but that's life. You'll never escape that.
Who was making the decisions about the staff in those days?
The same, both of us.
Both yourself and
It
your
wasn't.
father?
They were. I shouldn't say they were good employees. Unfortunately, they just made a mistake on site. They just did the wrong thing, and sometimes people don't give second chances. You're done the first time.
Okay. What might another challenge have been?
I would definitely say going through. It definitely has been hard the last few years. Like there's been a lot of businesses go under. They have struggled. Just making sure that you watch your back end. You know, when work gets tighter or gets shorter, you adjust your overheads and that to suit. So you're still making a profit, making sure you watch that carefully. That's a big thing. And
Okay.
that's always a challenge, adjusting everything all the time.
Where do you get the support from the numbers to know that you're making a profit? Are you qualified to look at the numbers? Or
Yep. I've done a lot of training on it.
Okay.
I haven't done any as such a course, but over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, I've learnt quite a lot, quite quickly. I've got my accountant who works closely with me and he helps me if I need anything, so that's good.
Excellent.
Yep.
Are there any other challenges that you can...
I would say the biggest thing would be working with people. People is one of your biggest problems, different personalities, and you know, one of the biggest things I've had to learn is don't respond in that moment when you're emotional. Step back and take some time to think rationally about it and then approach the situation, you know. That's a big thing. And not people are the way they are, you know, maybe understand why they behave that way and you just got to deal with it. That is what it is. You can't let it absorb you or consume you.
Wow, you've had some challenges, understanding the finances, trusting the employees, dealing with the employees, learning how to handle yourself, not be emotional in the moment. They're great learnings.
Yep.
They really are great learnings. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Where do you see the business in the future?
We're actually going through that at the moment. That's been discussion the last couple of weeks. So we're sort of, Dad will sort of probably exit maybe anywhere between 3 and 5 years. So at the moment it's setting up the electrical side because he's got the technical knowledge and I don't. How we're going to secure that side and keep it going, who we're going to, I guess, bring up that we trust that's going to stick around and not just be there for their own reasons. So I can't really say I have an exact plan at the moment because we're still working through that.
Okay.
Yep.
Where do you go for advice to think about these sorts of things?
I mean, the only place I really get advice from outside of my family is probably Family Business Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Family Business Australia is a place that you've found that you can talk things through to other people?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you go to different events that they have?
So they have a monthly forum group which I go to, and yeah, I would say that's the only place I feel kind of safe or comfortable to discuss these things with.
Okay.
Yep.
So you've got a succession issue coming up with your lead
Yep.
hand. Where do you think you might find this person? Is it just inside you want to train up, or might you have to look elsewhere?
We've got someone in mind internally that we would like to put there. It's more not, you've got to think from both sides, so it's got to be appealing to them that where they are in their life, that's what they want to do, or have they got their own sort of motives that, you know, where do they want to be? So making it that's appealing for them, that they're happy to be there and works for us too. But yeah, someone internally we've got in mind.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. So future, growth,
Yep.
change of staff, leadership, constant change.
Yep.
What else are you thinking about for the future?
I guess you're always finding ways that you can be different or you can grow, you know, not have all your eggs in one basket. So what other services that you offer? It's a big thing. I guess we're always thinking about that.
So you, just as an idea, how much do you communicate with your customers about what they want?
Probably not enough, to be quite honest.
Oh, okay. So something else we learned. I suppose being a smaller family-owned business, it's hard to do all of these different things. How do you choose, how do you make decisions on what market research you do, and how do you find the time to do other things to look at growing the business?
I need to set time aside, but we have meetings that we don't have. When we want a meeting, we sit down and we talk about things, or when something's on our mind, it's not a set, every week we're going to do this. It's more when it's on our mind, we sit and talk about it. So it's probably more frequent. But yeah, it's it just comes up in discussion if we need to. At the moment, we're quite happy with our work and our advertising and that we're doing, but when things, you know, settle down and get quiet, we certainly sit there and talk about what can we do to get more reach out there.
One day, I'm assuming you're going to start a family.
Yep.
Is the business still going to be very much a part of your life, or are you going to step back a bit, or you're just going to keep going and see how it all unfolds?
No, I hope it is very much a part of my life still. Sort of from where I am, I mean, I'm only 25 and a bit, so I'm not thinking about family just yet. That's down the road for me quite a bit.
Okay. Great. So I suppose tips for those people that are in their 20s, thinking about maybe working with their parents, what sort of tips would you give, or what tips might you give us?
I'd say the biggest thing is never get to a place where you think that you know everything, or you're quite comfortable in what you know. You can always learn. There's always more to learn. Everything's changing all the time. You've always got to keep learning. And whether you like it or not, unfortunately, your parents are always going to think they know better than you. So you're better off just letting them say what they've got to say and just moving on, not getting all upset about it, you know.
That's great advice. Just continue to move
Yep.
in the direction you want to move.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much to Claire
Thank you.
for sharing her time and coming along to speak with us. Thank you also to Tech for sponsoring today's session, the Executive Connection. And I look forward to seeing you again. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to look at the YouTubes, it's John Broons, the Family Business Guy. And you can contact me at john@johnbroons.com.
Okay, well, welcome back, and I've kept Claire and John in the studio after such a great interview, because I couldn't help but come up with some of my own questions from behind the camera, so I'm in the safe spot while you guys are under the lights. You talked about this. I want to ask both of you this. Claire, you're quite young, and 5.5 years ago, you're a 20-year-old buying a business. Now, I've got to ask the obvious question. Is it easier for a 20-year-old to buy it because you're fearless, or is it difficult because you go, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this?
It's difficult. It is a huge challenge at that age, but as long as you've got the people around you to support you and help you, that's your biggest thing. Have support. You can't do it alone.
So when you were looking at buying the business, and you were setting up your business as well and going to buy this one, and you say support, so a young person looking who thinks, geez, I'd love to have a go at this, what would you be saying to them around that support and some of the things you learnt along the way? You probably look back and go, I wish I hadn't done that bit. I wish I'd done it different. Is there things you can share?
Like I said before, don't think you know too much. You can always keep learning. Seek your parents' advice and take it, because they've been in life a long time. They know a hell of a lot more than you do at that age. If you can seek external people that aren't within your family as well, a mentor or someone, that's always good, really helpful.
John, in your dealings with family businesses, and you deal with multiple generations, and you see the younger generations coming up. When you talk to the younger generations that are chomping at the bit to take over, chuck out the oldies, they've had their day, what's some of the sharings you have with them, and some of the the mentorship you give these people to help them bridge that learning gap and step into the place that they want to be?
It's interesting. Some of them are quite different, and I think the differences are in the individual people themselves. There are so many different challenges in young people. Some are more secure in themselves, their life experience. Some are less secure. Some are looking for approval. Some are wanting to spread their wings. So when it comes down to these individuals, if I look at a person who wants to take control, they can end up butting heads with parents. And those that are more in the framework of being or looking for approval, they will do mum and dad's bidding, but they won't necessarily know yet what they truly want for their own lives.
Now, Claire, you bought a business that had been in difficulties, so the receivers were selling it. So how did you justify buying it? Because a lot of people may say, well, the business has been difficult and it's gone into receivership. What makes you think you can do it? And did you have meetings with mum and dad and the staff? And how do you go, how did you identify the problems, and how did you work out if you could actually solve them?
I think one of the biggest issues was, there's two sides to this. So they had 5 different businesses. A lot of them did work between intercompanies. So the cost there and managing that, if you can do it, it's easier to branch it all under one, which is what we do now. The flip side of that is, if you want to, I guess, you can still shut off one division if you need to. That's fine. But it's better to keep it under one. You keep your overheads lower, costs lower. That's your biggest thing, keeping those costs down on the backside.
And did you, so you identified that as one of the major obstacles, so you solved that issue. Did you find that by putting it under one umbrella, the culture that you talked about with John earlier was easier to have transmitted across all these, not divisions anymore, but I'll use that as a lack of a better term, across the different functions of the company?
It definitely was a bit of a culture change for people. Everything was a big change for them, but they all adapted quite well to it.
You just say it so nonchalant. Oh yes, I just took over. And
we were pretty great. We're pretty lucky with the people we've got. We were. Yeah. I definitely think if we had different people, it might have been a bit harder.
John, it's an interesting strategy, isn't it, to look at a multifaceted business and recognise that could be an issue because the resources are too thin, to bring it back in. Have you had experience yourself with those types of businesses when bringing certain things back under one umbrella is better for them?
Yes, I can think of 2 different instances. And in both cases, the headspace to operate and think in different marketplaces has been challenging. So to consolidate has been a clearer idea for the owners and operators, and especially the family, where they were able to work together. In one particular case, the family worked together a lot better, rather than a number of children running different divisions, thinking they all had the answers, and they were all a bit different. So bringing it all under the one roof and sharing, understanding and supporting each other worked a lot better.
I must ask you, Claire, like, you've got Dad now getting to the stage of 4 or 5 years. I think you were saying he's preparing now to step out, and you're going through that learning process now and identifying who can step into his position. You also said in the interview with John how your husband has started the plumbing side of that. Are you taking the learnings you're going through with your dad's position now and looking at where husband is and going, well, if we want you to grow and also get a management role, are you kind of going, we could deal with both of these at the same time, or are you just doing one at the moment and recording what you're doing?
No, we're definitely going through both at the same time. It's been a big thing, especially the last 2 weeks. We've been, I wouldn't say grooming Lance, but more...
We could call it training.
You could say that. We're more just trying to get him in a position where he understands he needs to... We've got a goal and we want to get there. If you want to be part of that, you need to step up, and we need you to go in that same direction. It's your choice, basically. But we very much hope he does and comes along the way and ends up at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John, you hear these succession plans, and I see you smile, because succession is, and Claire, in full respect, it is one of the most challenging things for business, isn't it? You're stuck and you're going, not only has it got to work for you, but the person coming up it's got to work for.
Yep.
How do you take that on board? When you've gone through succession in one stage of the family, are you trying to get them to go, look, you need now to look at this throughout your entire business?
Succession is a tricky subject. Succession needs to be looked at from all levels.
That's why they flew you to Adelaide for that talk, my friend.
That was last week. Succession needs to be looked at from everybody's perspective. We need to have everybody's shared opinions being able to be tabled, at least to understand where everybody's coming from. When you're talking succession, it's a long-term thing. You have to plan it. You can't do it with a 3-month plan. You'll generally fall short. The longer you have in planning, the more testing of the different scenarios that you might come up with, the better you're going to have an outcome. Scenario planning is a wonderful way of testing your plan, and some people don't even think about scenario planning. They don't try it out first, which is it's a risk management exercise. So yeah, you can have a great plan, but if you don't ever try and see what happens, you're never really going to know.
It's interesting you talk about scenario planning and be able to test things out. Unfortunately, when you're going to buy the business, it's a difficult thing to do. And I suppose a lot of people, it doesn't matter what age they are, and they're thinking of maybe stepping into business for themselves, or maybe buying a business that they think they can turn around. They're going to obviously have to question, there's two schools of thought, and maybe you made a mixture of them. One is write all the pluses and the negatives and do a balanced, calculated, logical approach to the whole thing. Or is it gut instinct, or is it a combination? How did you have the confidence to go, okay, this I think this can work?
I certainly didn't take the logic approach. It was more...
I recently spoke to John Hughes, and he didn't do that either. He just went, if I miss out, I'm going for it.
Claire's wonderfully honest.
Yes.
I think it's a gut instinct. You think you can have a go at it and do it. It's life's too short, I think, to sit around and think about it for too long. You just got to give it a go. And what's the worst if it doesn't work out? You learn something and you move on and try again with something else.
That sounds just like John. John Hughes, for the people overseas, is a really big car dealer here in Perth. That was his exact... He said, if it doesn't work out, I'll go back to doing what I was doing before. It's like...
Yeah.
John, when people are in business, you have a lot of... with business leaders like Claire, do you find that the ones that are actually making these big leaps, cutting through everything, are trusting their gut instincts probably more so than logic? How are you finding that balance?
First things first, you know yourself. Okay, when you know yourself, it's a much easier way to make a decision. And I find that gut instinct relates directly to your own values. So if you know what you're good at, if you're comfortable making decisions, and it's an automatic feeling. It's like when you bump into somebody that you don't know and you meet them for the first time. Within 30 seconds, you've formed an opinion. You can do that with yourself. 30 seconds of looking at something in particular that you might find is of value to you, you'll say, yeah, not only is my head saying it's okay, the gut feels right. That to me identifies that it's a match of values to you as an individual.
I think that is a really good point. Most of the entrepreneurs I've found do follow gut above. I mean, they do apply their mind, and they've got confidence in knowing yourself. Perth, and we're in Western Australia, 2019. Our economic times at the moment are a little bit up and down and challenging. I'll start with you first, John. Some final words of wisdom for people who are actually in business, who may be just feeling a little bit uncertain right now. Any words of wisdom to help them work through these ups and downs so they do get to the other side successfully?
Yeah, the big question, isn't it, Mike? That's what
Nothing
do
like
we
putting
do?
you on the spot.
Really, look at your numbers. Talk to other people that you trust that can give you advice. Find a group that you can talk to, a peer group. It might be Family Business Australia's forum groups. It might be Tech, the Executive Connection. They offer very different products, but they are both very good places for you to go to get advice. Going forward, it is a little bit of an unknown, so for me, I'm a little bit of a conservative, so don't go out and plan to buy 300 farms tomorrow and go into farming if you've never done it before.
Yeah, words of wisdom. And Claire, some final words of wisdom. How would you summarise and help someone through these economic, because you're actually in the business, you're going through it, and you're still growing, which is fantastic. What would you share with people?
I would say the keyword certainty sticks with me. So you need to have certainty around your situation. You know, as long as you're always looking at your back end, you have everything up to date, and you know your position, and you know where you are moving forward. You have the knowledge from that to make decisions going forward, but you always have to know where you sit and be quite clear about it. Whether it be a good place or a bad place, you still have that certainty of you know where you are to make decisions going forward.
And I'll ask you one more question, because it's very intriguing finding a young person buys a business and be successful along the way. And look, they are rare. They do it. They are rare. So when you find someone like yourself, it's always nice to ask this one. What would you say about your character that you think has enabled you to be successful in this space?
I don't like talking about myself.
I know, you're so modest. Come on.
I'd probably say stay grounded, be open to other people. There's an old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Be open to everyone, listen to everyone's advice. You know, don't shut anyone down. Whether you choose to take that advice or not, it's your choice, but at least be open to it. And I think don't get too ahead of yourself that you feel like, oh, you know, you've had one little win and suddenly your ego takes over. You know, stay grounded.
Stay grounded. I think that's absolutely fantastic advice. Claire, John, I am conscious of your time, but thank you very much for staying afterwards for an after-show chat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.